Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again, and welcome to the Roads with Bo. Today, we are going to correct a little bit of bad information and simultaneously try to ease some people's minds because there is a concern that has been generated and it should probably be talked about a little bit. So, we are going to talk about the roads to the draft. So, in the most recent defense budget, there were some changes to selective service. Some of the information that has gone out is just not accurate. First, this does not mean that the United States is about to introduce a draft. Another thing to note is the penalty that everybody's talking about, that 5 year max thing. That's been there your entire life. That's not new. That's not new. They're automating some stuff. It seems to be the main change. There is also discussion about making selective service apply to women. And that's because somebody went to the Supreme Court, equal protection and all of that stuff. Now, as far as the penalty goes, the reason people think it's new is because they don't prosecute it. Failure to register, the last time somebody was prosecuted for it was in 1986. Okay? But it's been there. If you are in the age range where you're worried about the draft, it's been there your entire life. And then, as far as people who selective service applies to, basically, if you're of the age where you can actually watch this video because you're still alive, unless you were born between March 29th, 1957 and December 31st, 1959, selective service applied to you. Okay? Okay. This does not mean that a draft is imminent. More importantly, to put everybody's mind at ease, we're going to go through the steps that would take place before a draft. Because if you are somebody who is concerned about this, you have an unlikely ally, the Department of Defense. They don't want you. They really don't. DOD has learned from history, they don't want draftees. And because of that, they have developed just a massive amount of ways to avoid a draft. So, what we'll do is go through the various steps and talk about what they are and when you really need to start paying attention and when there's actually a concern that a draft might happen. Okay, so the first thing that would occur before a draft was even considered is raising re-enlistment bonuses. They focus on retention. People who volunteered to join the military, they basically give them a giant check to stay on for another 4 years or 6 years or whatever. That is actually occurring now because they're not meeting recruitment goals. That's already happening. The next thing to occur is something that is called a backdoor draft. It's not really a draft, though. This is the moment where a lot of people realize, man, I really should have read that contract closer. This happened during Iraq at the peak. You're corporal whoever, and you're like, hey, I'm getting out in 60 days. And the first sergeant walks in. He's like, hey, raise your hand if you're getting out in 60 days. Not so fast. Come with me. Needs of the Army, son. You're staying. And they can do that because it's in the contract. The next thing is something called an inter-service draft, which, again, is not actually a draft. This is, you're really smart, so you enlisted in the Air Force because It's the branch of the military that sends the officers to go fight. And you sign up to be a cop in the Air Force. And then all of a sudden you get orders that say you're going with the 82nd to Iraq. And you go to your command and you're like, whoa, that's an Army unit. I enlisted in the Air Force. And they look at you and they're like, well, they're airborne. That's close enough. Get your stuff together. And then you go with an Army unit over and you serve as a cop at the place where they're operating. Then you get a call up of the reserves. And these are the reserves you know about. They call them up. Then you would get the reserves you don't know about. If you sign up and you do 4 years, you get out, go do a civilian job, and then you get a letter that says, hey, you got to come back. And they can do that because it's in the contract for a set number of years. Now, during this period, you also see an increase in the use of contractors. The next thing that will occur is you start getting ridiculously high enlistment bonuses. Not re-enlistment, not people who were already in. They already focused on them because they know a combat vet is better than a new guy. So they focused on keeping the people who have already gotten the training. But enlistment bonuses, volunteering, walking in, and they're going to give you a huge check. During Iraq, I know a guy who was looking at an $80,000 enlistment bonus because he spoke fluent Arabic. So it's at this point you should probably start paying attention. Keep in mind, this is the first item that deals with new people, and it's still dealing with volunteers. But when you start seeing them get really high, that's when you need to kind of keep an eye on it. The bonuses would go up throughout all of the previous steps a little bit, but then you would just see them shoot through the roof. The next thing that would occur would be lowering standards for new people coming in. So still volunteers, people walking in, and they're not even advertising this. But you walk in, you want to join, but hey, you're overweight. We've got a waiver for that. And they start issuing waivers for a lot more stuff. Okay? They're not advertising this though. You may read about it in the paper. The next thing is when they start advertising that they are opening things up, that they are lowering standards. That's when you need to really start being concerned. Until that happens and all of this other stuff occurs, it's not something that's incredibly likely because DOD doesn't want you. You would see a ratcheting up of recruitment efforts, okay, unless something bizarre was to happen. We suddenly go to war with Russia and China at the same time. That might spark a draft. But again, this is something that is incredibly unlikely. I would not be losing sleep over this if I were you. You have a lot of steps to go before it's something that they would really even look at. Mainly because they really don't want to use draftees. In fact, when you're talking about selective service, nobody even defends this on its merits anymore. It's just one of those things that has always existed, so they feel the need to keep up with it. And for those who are worried about the automation side of it, understand that they already have the information. If you have a driver's license, when you went in and gave them your social security number and birth certificate to get it, they already have it. It's not. It's not really. It's not really like a new thing. In fact, there are a lot of people who are concerned about this, who probably don't know that they're already signed up. Because in a lot of states, you do it when you get your driver's license. So that's what's going on. Again, this isn't something I would be incredibly concerned about. So there's a little more information, a little bit more context, and having the right information will make all the difference. Y'all have a good day.